Hello, I'm Janine Turner, founder of Constituting America. Welcome to our annual academic study, History Holds the Key to the Future. Or as Shakespeare said, just the same, what is past is prologue. This year's study is entitled The Genius of America, A Journey into Our Republic, a study on Alexis De Tocqueville's Democracy in America. De Tocqueville shows that most Americans are at their core united by a shared belief that active participation in free society best permits individuals to flourish. Joey Barretta. This essay is based off the reading, How in America Taste for Physical Pleasures is Combined with Love of Freedom and Concern for Public Affairs, Volume 2, Part 2, Chapter 14. And these are pages 514 through 517 of Democracy in America by the University of Chicago Press. How in America Taste for Physical Pleasures is Combined with Love of Freedom and Concern for Public Affairs by Joey Barretta. In Democracy in America, the Frenchman, Alexis De Tocqueville, provides a comprehensive account of the nature of democracy based on observations made while in America. He examines the qualities of the American people that enable its free society to persist, and he describes what could lead to its decline. He argues that a movement toward democracy is inevitable in a commercial society, and this is borne out in the industrial growth that enabled the foundation of America. The development of industry enabled a greater diffusion of material goods among the mass of the people. In a democracy, the people rule, and the institutions of government and manners of the people must both be ordered in a way that is conducive to a free society. In this particular chapter, de Tocqueville describes how a free society is uniquely suited to long-term prosperity. While a monarchy ruled by a king with the elevation of the few initially enables material prosperity for a small group, de Tocqueville argues it would not endure. It is free societies which continue to prosper throughout history. He concludes that freedom and prosperity are intertwined, most particularly within democratic nations. The character of the people in a democratic regime is rooted in equality of the individual, and it is shaped by the people joining into associations with their fellow citizens. De Tocqueville famously explains that associations promote a community that enables individual freedom under limited government. In this chapter, he speaks of associations in light of material concerns. In, quote, centuries of equality, end quote, there is a need for associations to enable one to acquire goods, page 515. Political freedom, he argues, enables the production of wealth, and despotism is destructive to it. Democratic people long for certain goods, and freedom will enable them to attain the, quote, material enjoyments for which they constantly sigh, end quote, page 515. However, an excessive longing for material enjoyment will disturb the spirit of liberty promoted by associations. The focus on accumulating wealth can be so extreme that it will lead an individual away from caring for the society as a whole. A person who solely focuses on wealth does not have the civic spirit necessary to see beyond himself, and it makes civic engagement a chore that distracts from his selfish pursuit. The desire for material enjoyments must be ordered by the cultivation of, quote, habits of freedom, end quote, page 515. De Tocqueville argues that the maintenance of self-government is the principal interest of every democratic citizen, and the attachment to wealth leads one to misjudge his primary interest to the accumulation of wealth at the expense of freedom. There needs to be a certain disposition in the democratic citizen, and de Tocqueville believes Americans have a unique combination of seeking individual interest while actively engaging in civic affairs. The individual needs to perceive that freedom furthered in the social and political realms is most beneficial for material enjoyment in private life. De Tocqueville warns that if the mass of the people is dedicated to, quote, private affairs, end quote, they are prone to be ruled by a few, which will enable the rise of despotism. Americans have been able to avoid this, and, quote, in that genuinely deserve to be admired, end quote, page 516. The character of the American people lets individuals both seek material enjoyments, but also remain engaged in civic activities required for the maintenance of freedom. That does not mean that Americans have no concern for material enjoyment. Rather, they are directed by their capacity of reason instead of being blindly ruled by passion alone. Americans, de Tocqueville explains, appear to be guided primarily by selfish motivations, but their conduct reveals something more noble. He writes, quote, "An American occupies himself with private interest as if he were alone in the world, and a moment later he gives himself over to the public as if he had forgotten them," end quote, page 516 through 517. Americans see freedom as the, quote, greatest guarantee of their well-being, end quote, page 517. In other words, they do what de Tocqueville says is necessary for democratic people, recognize that freedom is the key to prosperity. De Tocqueville's connection between freedom and prosperity was based on observations made in the 1830s, but he speaks to larger truths that can be informative for Americans today. As de Tocqueville explained, self-interest can be channeled rightly, and Americans have historically shown the way. They were active in the maintenance of self-government because they saw it as the best way to protect individual self-interest. The free democratic government Americans have devised enables them to both acquire the things they want, and it allows them to use those possessions as they see fit. Throughout the country's history, there have been sources of division over serious issues. But de Tocqueville shows that most Americans are at their core united by a shared belief that active participation in free society best permits individuals to flourish. This essay was written by Joey Barretta. Joey Barretta received his BA in Political Science and History as an Ashbrook Scholar at Ashland University. He went on to earn an MA and PhD from the Van Andel Graduate School of Statesmanship at Hillsdale College. His academic training is in political philosophy and American political thought, and he has published widely on the political thought of Frederick Douglass.